Hey, I'm Deborah Wilburn. I oversee the student employment operation here on campus. How many of you are interested in working on campus? Okay, so all of this information is very important for you to know, but I want to start by saying, like all other jobs, applying for jobs and getting jobs on campus through student employment is a competitive process like every other job search. There are no guarantees that you will get a job, so it's very important to apply to jobs for which you are eligible and qualified. Make sure your resume is up to date to show off all the skills and experience that you have. Pay attention to the instructions. Read the descriptions carefully, okay? And you're going to want, you all have a Handshake account already. You don't need to ask for one. You just need to log in and then read very carefully all the jobs and apply to those for which you're eligible and qualified. That will save you time, and you'll know then that you're going to be considered. Hiring departments won't consider you if you're actually not eligible and qualified. So we're going to go through some of the ways you'll find information. This is the Human Resources website. It's employment. It has all sorts of laws, policy, and guidelines. It was run through Human Resources, which is the office that oversees all things employee at Wright State. And on that page, you are going to find a section for student employment. And that section's going to have 4 pages that contain information important to your success as a student employee. You should visit these pages often because policies and rules can change, and you'll want to be aware of the updates. So the way that we do this, we navigate these pages. If you want to know about your eligibility for student employment, how many credit hours you have to have, what other qualifications are required, can you work in the summer, can you work, how many hours can you work, where do you find jobs, how do you apply for them, what are the various steps on this page, okay? What documents you need. Even if you get offered a job, you cannot begin working in that job till you do what's called employee onboarding. For that, you need specific documents. One of them is your United States Social Security number. There's a process for getting it, and you can't go through the onboarding till you have your actual Social Security card. The federal government prohibits both international students and domestic students from beginning work until after they've gone through this one stage of the onboarding process. Even then, after the onboarding process, there are other steps you have to follow. You cannot begin work till you're told you're now confirmed as an employee. That comes to your Wright.edu email. So again, on this page, you'll find out about eligibility to work based on your Wright State student status, how you find job postings, how you apply for them. Please read the job postings carefully, as I said before. There are certain jobs are compensated certain ways. There is one way they're compensated that you will not be eligible for. That's if it says compensated by federal work study. Some departments have a very limited budget and they need help from the federal government. Generally, international students do not receive a federal work study award because it's a US government financial aid award. But if it says compensated by regular budget only, or if it says compensated by regular department budget or federal work study, you are eligible for those jobs. So there's 2 types of compensation you're eligible for. Look for those to apply to. This other type, the federal work study only, you won't be eligible for, and so the hiring department cannot consider you because they don't have the money to pay for the full amount. So that you'll hear me repeat that again because that's a big issue. We have a lot of international students who we know spend a lot of time applying for those jobs when they're not going to be considered. So we'd rather you spend your time applying for jobs for which you're going to be considered. Now we're looking at the hiring process. That's going to have step-by-step guide what happens in the hiring process. You interview, you get an offer, you go get your Social Security number. Then it tells you what happens after you get your Social Security card. We have to have the card. It'll walk you through every step of the way, okay? and it'll tell you what all the various steps are. So hiring process, you'll learn what all the steps are that have to be followed before you can actually begin working. You'll learn on this page how many hours a week you can work in all your jobs combined. This is the most important thing you'll take away today. You are limited to 20 hours a week most parts of the year. And a work week is Saturday through Friday. Every Saturday through every Friday, you only work 20 hours a week, and that's in all jobs combined. So if you get 2 jobs, you can do 10 hours in one, 10 hours in another. If you exceed those 20 hours a week, it's called a work hour violation. You are immediately terminated. It happens automatically. And for some students, that's a visa violation. And you'll have to go talk to UCIE. If you have too many of those, it can threaten your visa status. So monitor your hours per week, and the easiest way to avoid going over is to fill out your timesheet with the start and end times of your shift at the end of each shift you work. Take 10 minutes at the end of each shift, fill out your timesheet, because then you can look at your timesheet or timesheets if you have more than one job. You can add up the hours you've already worked. And if you're approaching 20, like let's say you get to 18 hours, you know you can only work 2 more hours in that week. Even if your supervisor says, what, I need you for 4, don't do it. Only work 20 hours per week. There are some parts of the year where you can work more than that. We send that information to supervisors, but you can only work more than that if your supervisor schedules you. You'll find details about that hourly limit on this page. Okay, lastly, separate, terminate, verify. So separation from a job is you want to leave it. You want to leave the job voluntarily. You're going to go work in another job. This doesn't suit you. Your credit hour load is too big next term. You decide, I want to leave this job. You resign. Everybody's happy. Nobody's mad. Termination is a technical term. You might be terminated automatically if you fall below the minimum credit hours required. Doesn't mean you did anything bad. You're just not eligible anymore. Termination might mean that the department runs out of money to pay your job, so they ask us to terminate your job. You can't work there anymore. You didn't do anything wrong. They just ran out of money. But if you do something wrong, your department can terminate you from the position. They would send us a notice. So that's what termination is. It doesn't always mean you did something wrong. It can mean that. It's a technical term. So you can quit your job. You can be terminated from your job. You might graduate, in which case the system will terminate you from your job. So remember here too, this is while on the job. I just gave you information for this, separate, terminate, verify. We will come back to that. Okay, while on the job, this is where you're going to find out about, again, how many hours you can work each week. That's how important it is. We have it on our website twice. The work week begins on Saturday and ends on the following Friday. That's going to be reiterated here. It's going to talk to you about how to fill out your timesheet. It's going to talk about lunch breaks. Are you eligible for a lunch break or not based on your work schedule? So take a look at this page, review it, and know what the rules are that apply to you being on the job. Now we're going to go back to, so I talked about the reasons you might be terminated. Also, verification. So if you go on to get an internship, a co-op, or a job here after you graduate, employers often say, we need to verify your past employment. They have you fill out a release. We verify that employment. We look at your employment records, and we tell them when you started and when you stopped. So that's very important for you to do. Keep a record of your first day of work and your last day of work, in even student employment jobs, because future employers are going to want to know that information. And then they're going to verify with us to make sure that that information is correct. All the job postings are in Handshake. Typically, people don't email you to say, oh, I have a job, you can work from home, you don't get that through email. You apply in Handshake. Now, we send you all your information to Wright handshake.edu email, and it'll come from us. It'll say student employment. But your applications for your jobs, on-campus student employment jobs, all go through Handshake. And the instructions for how to log in are at this website. You do not ask Handshake for an account. You already have one because you're students. And for every student enrolled at Wright State, we automatically create your account, okay? So if you send a request to Handshake, that's going to delay the whole process. So just log in using these instructions, and then you're going to go to inside Handshake. You'll select the jobs module. When the jobs module opens up, there'll be a button that says all filters. You're going to select the on-campus filter, and that's going to narrow the results to just on-campus jobs. On-campus jobs are jobs that are paid by Wright State University on biweekly student employment payroll. The money comes from Wright State, the jobs at Wright State in a Wright State hiring department. There are other jobs, such as in dining services on campus, but they do not come through student employment. They go through the payroll for that employer because they're a contracted agent with us. So this will take you to jobs that are paid for by Wright State University. And just carefully read the descriptions for those job postings. Make sure you qualify, because if you don't qualify and if you don't follow the instructions, they won't consider you. The hiring departments won't consider you for the job. So the people in the hiring departments are the one who decide who to interview. They make those decisions and they make the hiring decisions. It's not the student employment team. We merely process that information. It's a competitive process, and all the information and all the hiring decisions are made by the department. If you want help getting prepared, so one of the best ways to get considered is to have a really good application. And the career consultants, there's one for each college from the Office of Career Education and Success. Have they talked to you yet today? Have you heard from them? Career Education and Success? Well, they help you with your resume, your cover letter, your interview skills. And that's not only helpful for student employment, that can help you later when you want to do an internship, co-op, or a job search after college, okay? Start with them now, because these student employment jobs are resume builders. You want to learn how to apply, learn how to present yourself, learn how to interview. And then you'll need to upload documents into Handshake, usually a resume, sometimes a cover letter, sometimes a transcript, sometimes a student employment application. You want to have those ready because they're needed when you go to apply to a job. So again, I just want to say, apply only to jobs for which you're eligible and qualified, because departments won't consider you if you're not. And so it's a kind of a waste of time to apply to jobs you're not qualified for. Remember what I said about funding, compensation. You will be eligible on the compensation level for jobs that are marked compensated by regular department budget only, or for jobs that are marked compensated by regular department budget or using federal work study. Look for that phrase, regular department budget. Apply to those. However, if it simply says compensated by federal work study and no regular department budget appears, don't apply to those jobs. There are other qualifications too in the job descriptions: GPA, school level, degree level, course requirements. Sometimes they even require a valid Ohio driver's license. If they're in that description, you have to have those to be considered qualified, okay? So read the description carefully. If you're offered a job, there are several steps that have to be followed. This summarizes some of them, but if you look at that page called the hiring process, it will give you, again, step by step. You have to have a Social Security card. You get the job offer, you get the offer letter, you go to the Social Security office, you apply for your card. When that card arrives, you tell your supervisor, and they will send us an email, and then we'll start the paperwork process. You'll get an email from us. When are you allowed to begin work? Only after you get the email from us. We will send you an email that says, hey, just letting you know, you're confirmed as an employee. Yay, you can start work. And your supervisor gets it too. They know you can start work, then they schedule you, then you just start working. But remember, only 20 hours a week. Work week begins on Saturday, ends on Friday. That's every single week, only 20 hours. You can find this information on our pages. It gives you all the special circumstances, and it applies to all jobs combined. If you have 2 jobs, it's 20 hours total each week in all jobs. 20 hours. If you violate that, you get terminated, and it gets reported to UCIE, and in some circumstances can affect your visa status. So anytime you have questions, visit our website, read the appropriate pages. This is the email address you can send to our team if you have questions throughout your work life or as you're applying for jobs, okay? Just take a picture and get in touch with us. I would ask you if you have questions, but I think it's break time. And I want you to get your coffee so you can make it through the rest of the day, okay? Thank you.